You wake up in a world where the asteroid missed. No fireball, no impact winter, no mass extinction event. The dinosaurs never died out. You look outside expecting a T-Rex behind a fence at the zoo, or a pterosaur gliding between skyscrapers, like something out of Jurassic Park. Except that's certainly not what this world looks like. Because in this version of Earth, there's a very good chance you were never born to see it. Let's start with the part that sounds like a plot twist, but is just geology. 66 million years ago, an asteroid, roughly 10 to 15 kilometers wide, slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula. Researchers who've studied the crater call it the worst possible place on the planet for that rock to land. The Yucatan sits on a thick bed of gypsum, a sulfur-rich rock. When the impact vaporized it, it pumped enormous volumes of sulfur into the atmosphere, blocking the sun for years. If the asteroid had arrived just moments earlier or later in its orbit, Earth's rotation would have carried it over open ocean instead. Less rock vaporized, less sulfur, less darkness. Some scientists think that dinosaurs might have made it through. So the extinction wasn't really about the size of the asteroid. It was about exactly where and when it hit. A cosmic coin flip. Now here's the uncomfortable part. That same impact is very likely the reason you exist at all. For more than 150 million years, dinosaurs dominated almost every large-bodied niche on land. Mammals stayed small, nocturnal, and marginal, living around the edges. It was only after the dinosaurs disappeared that mammals rapidly expanded into all the space that opened up. Primates came later. Eventually, us. Take the asteroid away, and none of that is guaranteed. So the real question isn't, what would it be like to have humans and dinosaurs side by side? It's closer to, what kind of world, if any, builds a civilization when the dinosaurs never leave? First thing to understand, birds are dinosaurs. Not descended from them in some loose, metaphorical sense. Actually dinosaurs, by every scientific definition that matters. And before the extinction, dinosaurs were already staggeringly diverse. Giants and pygmies, predators and grazers, swimmers, burrowers, gliders. Give that diversity another 66 million years without a mass extinction resetting the board, and evolution doesn't stop branching. It keeps going. Some of what that diversity produced is already visible in the fossil record. Multiple skeletons of the small predator Deinonychus have been found clustered around the remains of a much larger plant eater, once read by paleontologists as evidence of coordinated pack hunting, though that interpretation is still debated cause why and how, vegans and meat eaters anyway. Other species nested in colonies and brooded their eggs the way birds do today. Whatever the full story turns out to be, dinosaurs clearly weren't just cold, solitary killing machines. So, another question that should be asked, could any of these dinosaurs have gotten smart? This is where real science steps in. In 1982, a scientist named Dale Russell studied the skull of a small dinosaur called Troodon. Troodon had sharp eyes and a brain about 6 times bigger than other dinosaurs its size. Russell asked a big question. What if that dinosaur kept getting smarter for another 66 million years? What would it turn into? With help from an artist named Ron Seguin, he built a model to show his answer. People now call it the Dinosauroid. It stood upright, had a big head, and had 3 fingers made for grabbing things. This wasn't just a wild guess either. A few years earlier, the famous scientist Carl Sagan had a similar idea in his book The Dragons of Eden, imagining a different smart dinosaur that could have evolved too. But a bigger brain doesn't automatically mean a human brain. Plenty of paleontologists, including Darren Naish, have pushed back hard on Russell's humanoid version, arguing an intelligent dinosaur lineage would more likely have stayed bird-shaped closer to an oversized big-brained hornbill than a scaly person in a lab coat. Large brains, complex behavior, even tool use in some living birds and crocodilians today? Sure, plausible. Cities, writing, technology? That's a much longer chain, and there's no fossil evidence it was ever close to happening. So let's say, hypothetically, some lineage did cross that threshold anyway. What would slow it down? Hands. Human civilization runs on hands. Grip, throw, carve, tie, build, manipulate, something the size of a grain of rice. Most dinosaurs weren't built for that. Long-armed predators like Tyrannosaurus had forelimbs barely useful for anything. But the smaller, bird-like Maniraptorans, the same broad group Troodontids and Dromaeosaurids belong to, already had three-fingered hands capable of grasping. It's not impossible. It just depends entirely on which branch you're betting on, and the world itself wouldn't hold still and wait. Over 66 million years, continents drift, sea levels rise and fall, climates swing between hothouse and ice age. A surviving dinosaur lineage wouldn't keep living in some Jurassic Park backdrop of ferns and swamp. It would be forced to adapt, generation after generation, to an Earth that kept shifting underneath it, exactly the same pressure that shaped every mammal, including us. Here's where it lands. 66 million years ago, a piece of rock happened to hit the one unlucky patch of sulfur-rich seabed on the entire planet, at more or less the one moment in its orbit that made things as bad as they could possibly be. That single, almost absurd coincidence ended one dominant lineage's 150 million-year run and cleared space for a small, unremarkable, big-brained mammal to eventually stand upright, build a fire, and start asking, what if things had gone differently?